Hi, everybody. It's Daphne here from Laura Entertainment. I am sitting here with Yani Payne. He is a director. He's our featured guest for January, the male guest for January anyway. And we are going to jump right in. So, how are you doing, Yanni?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How are you, Daphne?
Trying to stay warm.
Yeah.
Trying anyway. I don't know how well that's working out. So, what made you want to become a director?
Necessity.
A necessity.
It was necessity. I mean, it was actually a project that I had written a while back, and I was going around talking to different directors and so forth, and just like, all right, who's going to be the right fit? And then it was like, shooting day was coming up, and I still hadn't found the right director, and I was like, well, I know the story. I wrote the book. I wrote the screenplay, so I'm just going to do it. I know these characters. I know this world, so it's got to be me because I literally don't have anybody else right now. So that's how it started.
So
Yeah.
you wrote it and you more or less you had everything already in your head before you started your production.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah, definitely. Okay, so what skills do you think is most important when directing or to have when directing?
Ooh,
Tough question.
well, it is. Skills wise, I think you need number one. You gotta have a clear vision of what you want. Right. That's like if you don't have a clear vision and you're just like kind of shooting on the fly. I mean, you can shoot on the fly, but even if you're shooting on the fly, you still have to have that the clarity of sight to be able to direct your actors and direct the scene and work with your art director and make sure everything's set right. If you don't have those things and you're just like then you're missing that, and that's a huge chunk. The second most important thing, honestly, it's kind of right there with the vision, is being able to listen to your cast. Like if you listen to them, they're going to have input that you might not see, and you probably don't really, because what are we like, as individuals, forget what position, whether it's director or writer or producer or actor, all of us are individuals, and we can only really see things from our perspective. So if we take the time to listen to the other person that's looking at working on the same thing as you, their perspective, maybe ultimately maybe you don't want to go with it, but at the end of the day, if you take the time to listen, their input may change and elevate the project.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I do believe that, an outside eye is always a good eye to have. You
Yeah.
know, it would be more or less, even though they're working on your project, it would be more like them coming in and being a viewer of your project,
Mhm.
beforehand. So,
Yeah.
how do you develop your stories?
It depends on what I'm working on. If it's something that I'm writing, I I know what I know who the characters are. I like I can't explain really how I know them. I just kind of know them. I may know what the end of the story is going to be, or I may know an individual event in the middle, and all I want to do is take the characters through that. Getting them there, I really don't have like a development like program or path or whatever that I follow. It's like, what would these people do in this situation, whether it's a real world situation or a sci-fi situation or whatever. Um, I want to take them on a path that can be relatable and believable. How I go about it is I literally just get into the world and kind of start their day. Like if they're having coffee to start their day, like I have coffee every day, so I can relate to that, right? But I don't wake up every morning and go to the gym. That's not like just not my thing. I wish I
Neither.
had that. I wish I
That's
could be one of
amazing.
those people.
I'm not a morning
um,
person.
like I wake up. I wake up every day and I take my son to school. That's like my morning thing, right? Wake up, get him ready for school. I have my cup of coffee. He eats his breakfast and then get him off to school. That's like my morning routine. But it didn't used to always be that way, right? Because before him, I had like my previous life where I actually used to get up in the morning and do some exercise and some other things. I remember what that's like. so I can put that into a different character. Um, and then I remember what it was like when I was a kid and the difficulty of getting up and like all, all the different things that you go through your life, what it's like in different circumstances. So you can pull on those things and you put them into the story in the, you bring your story world and characters forward. Um, when I'm telling a story, the most important thing is to relate the characters. Make them. They may be completely fantastical creatures or beings or whatever, but they must be relatable. If they're not relatable, then the audience has no reason to care and continue to watch.
That's true.
So,
That is true. So what your creative process, I mean, what do you do to get creative?
I don't know. I mean, just kind of like whatever I'm doing, it varies from project to project. Um, if there's a project that I'm like that I will go work on, it's a commercial or whatever. It depends on what the commercial is going to be for. If it's something that's fun and silly and they want to talk about toilet paper or they want to talk about a soda, they're two wildly different items. So what kind of feel and style do you want to have is going to be based around that. What do I do to get into the creative process for something like that? I mean, not much. I mean, to be honest, like not much. It's kind of like, all right, I got a job to do. You know, go in, get the stuff on the screen. A little short thing is not difficult. You go get the right angles, do whatever. Um, when it gets into the more involved things, character wise, and telling a story, building a world, getting into that space is I kind of make it part of my headspace, but never part of my real world, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, because you can get lost. You get lost real quick between the real world and the
That's
story
true.
one.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think, I don't, the way he played the Dark Knight was just crazy. I loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But he couldn't
yeah,
break his character after he came out of the role, and
yeah,
that's sad because I mean, like, he was a really good actor. I really did like him. It
yeah.
gets hard for people sometimes. Sometimes they can't
Hmm.
separate the two.
Yeah. I mean, in on the writing side of things, that's where I kind of get more involved, right? Because like I'm not an actor. I have acted. I steer clear of that. That's not my. Um, um, but on the directing side, it's more working with and trying to develop and getting the characters to come to life and get the performance to come across the right way and so on the writing side is where I can get really lost in that world. And when I'm taking a certain group of characters to a really dark space, I like there's one part in one of the stories that I wrote, um, where I mean it's just awful. The entire thing is so awful. Um, I literally could not finish writing it. I was like, nope, I'm done. Like I'm checking out because if I don't check out, I'm going to go into a really dark space, and I can't do that. And so I just stopped. And so I'm like, it's a great, it's a very, very important element to the larger world with the book series and so on that I wrote. But it's a screenplay, and I'm not the one to do it. It's my baby. I know the character. I can't touch that. I would be happy to have somebody else who can write those kind of things. Yes, but because I cannot take my head to that space, especially with my kid now. And if I go there, it's not like nothing bad's going to happen, but it's going to put me in a really just foul
Bad
zone.
mood, temperament,
Yeah.
change your
Well,
whole.
yeah, I would just be sad and depressed a lot. Not that, I mean, the stuff that I'm writing about is quite gruesome what that character does.
Mhm.
Um, but but it's like psychologically manipulative and physically brutal at the same time, and on like a societal level. So it's not just like he's doing stuff for one character. He's making waves that literally change the course of the history, and it's a lot. And the things that he does are just terrible. So it's like no, I can't do it. Like I know what I want him to do, but I cannot put myself in that space.
So what have you directed? What kind of movies have you directed so far?
So my most recent one is the well, we just did the proof of concept for An Accidental Fire. We just cut the trailer together for that. The Accidental Fire is a prequel to the book series that I wrote, and did a couple commercials. I directed a short film, God, a long time ago, and then I had a family emergency that I had to literally had to step aside from filmmaking for about 4 years to make sure that everything was okay and make sure that I was in a good space too to come back to it, to be able to put like my actual effort and headspace in there. Um, so yeah, commercials, short films, dramas, short dramas. Short dramas are kind of fun, but to me they're kind of dull. Um, Generally, and I don't mean to poo-poo anybody's work. That's their passion, and there's so many that are good. But for me, like I'm an action oriented guy. I like thrillers and action. I can direct those things, and it's a lot of fun. I have tons of fun directing action sequences and building up the intensity and things. And thrillers are really really cool because you get a lot of time to build all that tension. Um, Commercials are just fun. Like they're just goofy. They're short.
Sometimes.
Um, Apologize. Um, so yeah, it's I mean, it runs the gamut. Go back to 2010, I think was the 2010? No, 2008. Yeah. So 2008 um, was the first short that I directed, and then after that one, I got into doing more, and there was a handful of college films and so forth, and there were a couple that were really creative and they were really cool. I went out to Western State College in Colorado after I left the little community college that I went to in Pennsylvania. And little community college was great. I was in their film program there, and I ended up with with three associate degrees from that school because I couldn't decide what I actually wanted to do. And
I
then
had
I
that
finally,
problem when I went to school. I did. I did. I went to school originally for medical administrative assisting, and then I went 2 years, and then I figured out I couldn't watch people throw up. So then I went into yeah, right. I went into criminal justice and did 4 years BA for forensic psychology and crime scene investigation. I figured I can't watch people throw up, but I can see dead bodies, you know. I mean, it sounds kind of twisted, it really does, but I have this thing where I can't, I can't listen to it. I can't have
yeah,
it like in front of me, and I sure the hell can't clean it up unless I have to absolutely clean it up. I don't know. People
yeah,
get off their game when they go to schools, they got to find themselves what they want to do.
yes, yes, definitely. Uh, you know, I went to school. Let's see, what did I go to? How many things did I go to school for? Um, so first, it was like I don't know what I wanted to do, so I went liberal arts. Um, and then, well, I got my liberal arts associates, and I was like, oh, I know what I want to do. I want to go for archaeology. So then I went out to Western State College for what used to be Western State College. Now I believe it's Western Colorado University. I don't know. They did a name change sometime after I left. I don't know. Anyway, went out to Western State College and studied archaeology for a year and a half, and then uh, that was God, that was a long time, 2003. Yeah, because then I joined the army and went into counterintelligence, and then got discharged for a shoulder injury. Um, and then after that, in 2004, and then after that, uh, I went back to school. I went back to the little communities, Montgomery County Community College. It was called Montco. So I went back to Montco and I got another degree. And this time I was like, well, I guess I'll study history. Um, and that's what I did. And then, so I got my associate's degree in history. And then I was like, well, I'm not done yet. And I don't really know what I'm going to do with a history degree. So I've got stories to tell. And then I wrote my book while I was going to school and after the army, and a book series. Um, and I was like, well, I ran into a whole bunch. This is before the internet and all that stuff was like normal, like commonplace. It was obviously it was around, but it was like everything was dial up, and you couldn't just go to work and like be
I
on
know,
your
so
phone and like
annoying. It's a friggin' ring
so yeah.
pair.
Yeah, yeah, oh my God, you remember that awful thing?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so yeah, so then after I wrote the book while I was working overnight as an overnight security guard, and I did that literally out of boredom. Um, I was bored, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna write a 50-page short story. It ended up being this huge, I think it's close to 1,000 pages now. I mean, like we're redoing the whole thing, putting it out, and then it's close to 1,000 pages. When I was done, it was like 500 pages, but it was all handwritten. So um, then I sent that out to a few literary agents and stuff back, a lot back in the day, and then waiting for snail mail and the response. I got 5 responses that wanted the whole manuscript. So I was like, great. So I sent it out, and out of the 5 that wanted them, 3 came back, and the other 2 just not interested, and 3 came back and said it's too controversial and you step on too many toes. And I was like, that's kind of the point. Um, so I was like, all right, well, this is a struggle, and I have no clue what to do. I'm 24 years old, 25 years old, um, and I didn't really know my way around anything, and I wasn't one of those entrepreneurial kind of people, and I was kind of always just go with the flow, whatever comes up, and I'll just do it. Um, so I was like, well, how about I write another story that's a prequel to this one that I can turn into a movie? And so that's what I did. And then I got together with a whole bunch of the kids from the college and used the college equipment and so on and so forth. And we shot 53 minutes of a 90-minute screenplay for about $250. And it was like, it was awesome. I mean, that was really just food costs and a couple of, prop weapons that I bought. And that was like my first kind of
Or the
foray.
next Josh Gates is who you could have been. Josh Gates, history,
Yeah.
archaeology, film. There you go.
Yeah. So that was where I went next, right? So I'd done the thing in 2008. Wrote the Evolution of an Angel, which was one of the prequels to the book, and then shot shot part of that, and then I got accepted into Western State College out in Colorado again. It was my second time going back there. So so I went back in 2009, and I dropped the film because I was like, well, all of my cast is here in Pennsylvania where I would shoot it. And I was like, so sorry guys, I'll come back and we'll shoot it. The rest we'll finish it up in summer. Of course, that never happened. But that's all right. I went out to school out there, and everything was good and all fine and dandy. Finished up in with film communications with focus in film, and then my uncle called me in 2012, and he lived down here in Florida, and that's how I ended up in Florida. He called me and he was like, "Hey man, I got a job for you. You want to come down?" I said, "Sure." What the heck? The town I lived in Colorado was awesome, but super tiny. There was, I think it was 5,700 people that lived in the town, and I think it went up to 7,800 or 7,900, something like that, when the students were there. So it was like nobody in this town. There was nothing for like 100 miles in any direction, except for Crested Butte, the ski area that was north. Um, so I was like, I got to get
Wasn't
out.
South Park, was it?
No, South Park was bigger than this town. South Park is legitimately bigger than the town. The town was called Gunnison, Colorado. It was an awesome little town, but man, it was so tiny. There was no space for like career development or growth, and even then, even going to school for film and all that, I was like, well, what am I going to do? I can't do anything here for film, to growth, but I guess I'll go to Florida because my uncle just has a job. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I came down here, and then lived here pretty much ever since. And then, kind of dabbled in the stuff that happens in Florida. I mean, there's work for a couple of film companies down here, um, small independent studios. A couple of them you learn everything not to do with some of those, and some of them you work and they show you all the right stuff to do because they've also worked with the ones who don't do things the right way. So Um,
We've all had that experience where you
yeah,
either learn how to do it or you don't learn how to do it, or somebody's telling you that you're doing it wrong. So you said
yeah.
your favorite genre is action, right?
Action and thrillers, yeah. Um, Action for the sake of action is it's fun. It's a lot of fun, right? Popcorn films in the summers. There's action for the sake of action. Cool. Rock on. Pretty much any time, and you don't have to pay attention to it too much. It's just cool stuff happening. Um, those aren't my stories, but they're fun to watch. Um, I like my favorite genre probably is an action thriller. Um, the If I had to pick one of my top favorite action thrillers, it would probably be Spartan with Val Kilmer from 2007. I might be wrong on the year,
I think I
but I
heard
think it's 2007.
that one, I think. See, yeah, I think that would be fun because I mean, I love motorcycles. So I mean, I have this thing. I'd ride in 40 degrees. I don't care. Like I went out a couple weeks ago. It was probably like 20 out, and
Yeah,
so I mean, action's fun. But I think like my favorite would probably be cross between. I love comedy because I think Melissa McCarthy is funny as hell, you know. And then
yeah,
I love the action parts and the horror flicks. Honestly, I do. I think
yeah,
they're a lot of fun to make too. I mean, especially in the horror world because you got to act like you're getting killed, you know.
yeah.
All these people doing all this crazy stuff, so it's just like okay. I think it's fun. So what kind of feedback have you received from your actors when you were working with them?
Um, all good. I mean, the thing is, I don't want to be like, hey, I'm great and everybody loves me. I can be kind of annoying because I talk like a lot, and I know that I talk a lot. Um, so
I do too.
like
I don't care.
I
I
will
do too.
I will cut myself off. I mean, I'll tell them, I'm sorry, I won't cut myself off ever. So like that's kind of the problem. But I'll tell them like, look, if you get the point, just tell me so that I can stop talking because like I will just continue to go because and it's not even that I think that they're not getting it. I'm just like blah 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 blah. Like I'm trying to get the thing across, and it could literally be for the simplest, most ridiculous thing. Like I made the joke before about the toilet paper thing, but I wasn't really joking. I'm being serious. The like I go into be like, well, man, when you think about it, when you go to the bathroom, like, what's the face? And they're like, I'm like, to a couple of sentences will get them there. But I will go into this ridiculous diatribe about stuff, and I'm like, listen, you've got to tell me when you get it, then I'll just stop.
Back in
Uh,
1985 when they first started
yeah,
producing this stuff. Right? There you go.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, the feedback is pretty much that, like I said before, how important it is to listen to them. One of the reasons I tell them to stop me is that I can shut up and listen, because if I don't shut up, I won't listen. But really, that's probably the feedback that I've gotten the most is that I actually take the time to listen and not just listen, but like implement their ideas because most of the time their ideas work. If an actor is making a choice, if I don't understand it, then I ask, why are you making that choice? If if they explain then why they're making that choice and I can understand that, then we'll work it out. So continue to make that. I like it, but let's also try to add this in. And when we do that, then we come up with usually with something really really beautiful. But I think listening to them is probably the feedback that I've gotten the most is that I listen and actually try to make it work.
So tell us about, your first feature film you've directed. Uh
First feature
oh.
that was another accident, and I actually stopped directing it after I did two scenes in it because I was like, "This is trash, and I'm not doing it." Um, it was another one that was like, the director that was on. Um, it was for a little company down here in South Florida. The director that was on, he didn't want to do anything with it because it was trash. It was a trash script. Like They had me write the script for it. Then they changed everything because the producer got his hands on it with, his. I have some words, but I'm not going to say them. Um, so
Critiques.
no, it wasn't his critiques. His critiques didn't. They never existed. They took the script that they asked me to write and gave me all this praise about how wonderful it was and everything, and they completely changed it along. He and his. I will call her his business partner. So, um, she was the lead actress in it, and they took what I did, and they were like, and I was like, whatever, like that's fine, all right, it's your film, I wrote it, you don't want to use that, that's you go for it. And so they brought this director in, and he was all right, he was okay, and we shouldn't say that. The guy was actually really good at being a director. The problem was they took the script that worked that he had read, that he had agreed to, which is one that I had previously written, and they had changed it, and he was like, I'm not doing this. And so they were out of a director, and they were like, Yanni, we need you. And I was like, for what? And
They
they were like,
they
direct.
never sent the other director a new version of the script.
And they handed it to him when he got there, and he was like, no, this is trash. Like, the thing is, they would shoot scene by scene. They would never really know. That's what I'm saying. Like, this is the company that I learned like what not to do. So,
I mean that's serious right there when you're not sending your director. We have written and rewritten, and I mean we have been writing.
mhm.
We're done, thank God. But I mean, Shattered Dreams. I know we've done 8 writes on that. 8,
Yep, yep.
and
And it's what it takes. I mean, when you want to get a script right, you take the time and you get the script right. And
yeah,
then once you get the script right, because at the end of the day, if you're not telling a story that's cohesive, it doesn't matter how great it looks and how amazing your actors are. I mean, if you have a shitty script, it shows up on the screen. Pardon my language. The I I'm a huge, huge Star Wars fan. Huge, like back to the originals, and I grew up with the originals. Literally, I was born in 1980, and anyway, when the sequels came out, the first one, I was like, yeah, okay, all right, it's not bad, it's kind of fun. And then the second one came out, and I was like, what the like? It went so sideways, right? And then the third one, and I was like boycotting it. So my son, he was like, Dad, my friends are going to see Star Wars. Can we all go? And I was like, yeah, all right. So we went. And then I was like, oh my God. And I was like floored with what had happened because they had all the actors, you can't fault the actors. They all did their best performance and they were good. Like the actors were great. Um, Visually, it was striking. I mean, like all technically on a technical level across the board, very, very good.
yeah.
You would expect that with a $200 million budget, but or more, but whatever.
I've
The
never been able
script,
to get into Star Wars. I know a lot of people like it. It's just people get tired of the same things
mhm,
over and over and over, and the plot doesn't change much.
yeah,
Somebody gotta go rescue, and then you come back. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much
this,
what it is. You're going out,
mhm,
you're doing this, you're fighting that one, this one, but nothing's changing because we all know
right,
you're gonna win, and then you're gonna come back.
yes,
So
right.
want
The
new,
stakes
you know.
the stakes are not there anymore. They're not. And like, I use Star Wars as an example because it was such a prime example of just god awful writing. Um, they took characters who could have been developed. Each one of them could have been developed, whether you're a Star Wars fan or not. You don't even have to be a Star Wars fan to know that the story is just garbage in these. Um, they overpowered the main character Ray. They mean like wildly overpowered right out of the gates. No development of her skills. There was no journey for her. It was just, oh, I'm kind of a little sad sack, and then but I also know how to fly the Millennium Falcon of all ships, and then like yeah, okay, you're like force sensitive, but you've never even known that. So how do you just suddenly know how to fly like that ship not just any ship. And then like, I mean, but it just goes on and on. I mean, like just continuously, because every little step that happens, you go, I mean,
Mhm.
isn't that convenient? Because it's just a matter of convenience across the board, convenient. Um,
Yeah, I mean, the way I float my ideas is because it's the same way I screen clients when they're submitting to me. Like even if it's their scripts or if it's just somebody from management or music, what I do is because kids come in handy. They're
mhm,
always up to date on everything, you know. And we have 8 and they range all the way from ages 27 down. You know, we've
mhm,
got my son's in the army, so I've got his crew that I get opinions from, and you take all these people's opinions, and if something don't work, because I have like all my kids have this specific genre that they're into, so it's different every time,
mhm,
you know. And same with music, same thing. I run it past them, I'll let them listen to it if it's music. I'll let them, you know, I'll explain to them if it's a
mhm.
movie or if it's somebody's reel that they're submitting to me. I let them watch them because they're in the age range, you know. And
Right.
okay, do you believe this, or what do you think about this person, or what do you think about that music? Do you think your friends are gonna like, you know, it's like that. And in the movie industry anymore, people are getting so done with the old, and that's why there's so many studios putting out the new content because
Mhm.
they know that people, I mean, how many times is Freddy Krueger going to go, I mean, you know, and do what he does in the dreams and come back and then he's supposedly dead. The same with Michael Myers. And I mean, I love all the movies, you know what I mean, and the
Yeah.
directors, but you got to move it somewhere else. You got to move those. You're going to lose your audience, and
Right.
you're not going to make nothing. You know, you're going to be
Yeah.
out money that it took.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see studios now doing some really interesting stuff, and then others making just some mind-bogglingly stupid choices. In without pointing out the obvious one, the changes that are made to go from scripted to unscripted on virtually the entire slate of their streaming channels is just mind-bogglingly, you know, dumb. I mean, like why would you do that? You know, having literally the largest streaming platform with the largest customer base and the greatest collection of content, narrative content, to totally unscripted, um, you know, no narrative content unless it fits like all the little check boxes, and then erasing. I mean, just not even putting them, not even putting completed projects on the streaming channel, but just completely just slicing it. What are you doing? I mean, okay.
There's a show that's on, and I mean, I hope whoever wrote this show or whoever's doing this show is really not offended by what I'm about to say. But honestly, I don't see a point in it. I don't see a point in this show at all. I have grown daughters that are 22, 23, you know, and then a little bit younger, and they have this show and it's out, and I won't say what streaming services got it out there because they have some other ones I like on there too, you know. But this one, I just think it's completely pointless. Is the show called The Sex Lives of College Girls? Okay. Who the hell cares about the sex life of these college girls? They need to be in school doing what they're doing, and nobody gives a shit about what they're doing on their free time. You know,
Mhm.
study. You're paying lots of money to go to college. We don't care about what you're doing on your free time. I see no point in this show. I really don't, you know.
Well, sadly, I think that I haven't watched the show, but I think
I haven't
I've
either.
seen it. I've seen it pop up on the, when I'm going through I know, where it's at, and as I see it, I'm like, Jesus Christ, come
Hmm.
on. But I think that is a reflection of the times and the social media and all the baloney that's out there floating around. I mean, I have on my project, we have a team of social media content creators and influencers that's working as part of the project. Like they're playing themselves as characters in the TV show, and they're also being involved in getting things going. That small group has a follower base of 20, 21, maybe 21, 20 or 21 million followers right now across their platforms, right? A huge follower base, and that's really cool. When you go look at the stuff that, and the cool thing about them is they're not putting out mindless content. But if you go look at the other stuff that's out there, but the rest of the majority, I mean, if you just scroll through TikTok or Instagram or whatever, I mean,
I
it's a
just don't
little.
really care. I'm not big on Instagram. I don't really care for Instagram. Like I'll get on there every once in a while because we have to be on every platform, but
Mhm.
I don't care for it because there's a lot of people out there that they get their followers, but what people don't realize is those numbers are they're manipulated because there's a lot of people that are buying their followers. Where me, I believe less is more because if you have a little bit less, then guess what? Those people are real and legit versus
Mhm.
having a million people following you and knowing damn good well that you probably bought 700,000 of them. You know what I mean? And that's just the way I feel. And then as far as like the show, you're talking about age demographic. Well, I mean, my daughters are the same age as these college kids and they're not interested in it, and I
Well,
just
that's that.
see the point in it.
It's a very particular market that they're
Mm.
creating a show like that for. It is the equivalent of not even college, but like entry, pre-college, like senior year in high school, demographic equivalent of the Real Housewives. Like it's that mindset. Now it's not, and the thing is, like, how many people how many how many people actually cared what the Real Housewives were doing? None. But like, even the ones who watched the show didn't care, but they went on and had a laugh, and so they couldn't really connect with the college age market, with them. But sure, they would, you know talk about them and throw their names around like so and so, but they were talking about them like they were, their moms and aunts, and not that they were calling them their moms and aunts, but that's how they were viewing them. So, putting the sex life of college girls or whatever, um, they're able to connect with that same market demographic, but in the younger group. So is it foolish? Yes. Is it? And it also sets to me a worse standard, right? Because if they do that stuff with the Real Housewives are grown women who, well, as asinine as they can all
Married.
act, right?
They're not out, excuse me for what I'm about to say, but they're not out being little tramps, hanging out and making it public. And I'm not saying that the people on the show are tramps, but I mean, you've got when people go to college, everybody knows, oh, woohoo, we're away from the parents,
Hmm.
party and this, but who really wants those cameras in your face? And I know even the girls that are probably on that show, I know it has to get irritating when somebody is constantly in your,
And
you
you don't
know,
want a camera in your face all the time. I
no,
mean, like, I don't know. I mean, some people do. I shouldn't say, I mean, I live an incredibly private life. I stay at home. I occasionally go out to do something, but I never go. I'm not like I used to be, right? When I was young, when I was a kid, I could go out to the bars, go out to this. I was never a club guy. That was never my thing. But I just go out and like socialize. Now it's kind of like, I did it all. I don't really care. I'm gonna stay home, stay quiet. There's enough nonsense going on nowadays, and like everything else, and I'm cool just chilling here. Like I don't need to be out and about.
you're
When I
alive
was
on
younger,
the beach.
yeah, and when I was younger, those kind of shows honestly just irritated the snot out of me. Like it was like, what? This is brainless. Why does anybody watch this? But they had huge viewing audiences
Yeah.
of people who wanted to watch it. On one hand, I guess it's sort of kind of escapism, kind of. I have trouble with that one, but kind of. Um, on the other hand, you just want something brainless, like totally brainless, to like shut yourself off. When you watch something enough, though, it's kind of like, when somebody lies and repeats it over and over and over and over again, it starts to become true. And so when these women are up there screaming at each other and doing whatever in the Real Housewives, eventually the viewers, having watched, I'm talking about like over seasons and seasons,
Mm.
will start to emulate that, whether they even mean to intentionally or not. They just will. And like you have to be like a dedicated viewer. I'm not, obviously it's not everybody that watches it. And then this is the one of the difficulties or problems, and actually is the right word. Problems that I see happen, like, maybe coming with a show like Sex Life of College Girls. Like, it's trouble, man. Like, you're just asking for trouble. Like,
Oh, well, yeah, I guarantee, and I mean, I don't know, what the actual ratings are for that show or streaming ratings or whatever, but I guarantee that probably 65 to 70% of the audience watching that show is a male. Just because they're wanting, guys are guys. I got 8 brothers, you know what I mean? So I guarantee that most of their audience is probably male. Do I want my daughter watching that? Hell no. Because I would take the TV right off the wall before I sat there and let my daughters watch that.
yeah.
So we'll move
Well,
on from this. So, okay. What do you think are the best, how do you put this? Best elements in writing your films? Your best
hmm,
element for a great film.
you mean like what's the best
They could
piece?
be
Like
your
what?
actors or, locations, anything that you believe, and I mean, it's your own opinions.
You mean once it's like what, like once it's actually on the screen,
No,
or what makes it the?
I'm making it the best elements that you.
I would say working on the proof of concept for An Accidental Fire was the single best filmmaking experience that I ever had. And the reason for that was the cast and crew had, we had spent plenty of time, never together physically, but always on Zoom. But we spent plenty of time talking and going through things together and whatever, and just and really developing a familiarity. I shouldn't even say everybody, right? Because the crew didn't even know who we were. Like, they were hired by our production manager, and like, of course, me and the production manager, but the production manager brought them in. They had no idea who we were. They were just coming in to do a job. We had a last minute casting the of one of our lead actresses, and because of our previous lead actually had gotten hired to do had gotten cast on a new show which was shooting in Canada, so she had to move like 2 days before we were shooting. So, uh, um, but congratulations to her. I think that was wonderful. But we had a last minute casting, a brand new person. She sent in her audition tape, absolutely killed it, and I was like, "Yep, all right, cool, we're going with her." And the feedback that we got, and what made it so special was that it didn't feel at any point like we were there to work. It did. The whole thing was about work, but it felt like we were working as a family, not as a team, not as a bunch of filmmakers. Obviously, filmmaking, that was what brought us together. But like, we were there as a family, and it was really different than any other set that I've ever been on. There was never like nobody had any complaints. There was no nonsense with I want this and can I have that. And, it was so smooth and so easy from like the minute we stepped on set. Actually, even before we stepped on set, when we first got up to the filming location. Um, and I think that air of comfort would have allowed us to feel at home
So
anywhere.
that'd be your element when you're comfortable working with somebody, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you can work in discomfort and you can still get the job done. It's not like I haven't been there before.
but it's harder to work in tenser
Right.
environments.
Right.
But do
You
you
can
have
do
any
it
funny
anywhere, but
stories? What's a funny story that's happened to you on set? Everybody's got one. I have plenty.
man, I don't know. I never think of myself as like I'm always like the serious guy. So like what's and whenever I'm doing stuff, I'm like near like I'm so like great in laser focused on what needs to be done. I literally am not paying attention to the other stuff that's going on. So like really like a funny story.
Has anybody pulled any pranks on you or
Me? Nah.
no?
And if they do, I don't even like I was born on April 1st. Like April 1st is my birthday. So like pranks don't even like
You were
get me
born
anymore.
1 year and 1 day after me.
Nah.
My birthday is
Awesome.
March 31st. Yeah. Yep. We're
Right
telling
on.
our ages now. Damn, we're screwed. But yeah, that's funny that you were born a day after me. That's cool. Team Aries, I believe that. It's great.
Yeah. But you know, I'm I'm always like I'm always just so focused. Like you know, and the pranks don't. I mean, ever since I was like 16, and I learned how to not just tolerate people doing pranks, but like if somebody thinks they're gonna pull one on me, like and I see it coming, like I'm gonna flip it around on them. And so like I don't really even notice. And I'm like I think a lot of my friends and colleagues kind of think I'm a little bit boring because like I'm like hey whatever like it's about everything. Um, Gosh, I'm trying to think of something like funny though, and
I'll
like
tell you something
offhand,
that
nothing's
happened
coming
to
to
me
mind.
on the set. We were on set. Oh my God, it was a little short film. It was when I first got into acting a long time ago, and we were filming Strike It. It's a little short film, a little cute short film. And I was a guard, and I was standing by a vault, and my friend was standing on the other side. And then we've got these robbers that are coming in. Well, my friend had to have the ski mask folded in newspaper while walking in because they didn't want nobody to know that they were going to rob the place. So here we go. They're rolling. One walks in and goes this way, one walks in and goes that way. And then here's going to come the mean guy. Well, while walking in, there's this big open floor right there. And the ski mask fell out of the newspaper and was laying there on the ground with nothing around it. And he keeps walking because he didn't realize, that it had happened. I am sitting there in my head cracking up. I mean, like it was about to come out because nobody realized it was on the damn ground and they kept filming. And finally, when they called cut, I lost it. I was like, how did you miss that? It's right there. It fell. I mean, you see a ski mask come out of somebody's newspaper, you're going to know, okay, wait a minute,
Yeah,
stuff
you know
like
there was
that.
yeah yeah. Thanks for sharing that. There was one story actually was on an accidental fire. It was another one of those just simple small thing. Um, there was an actor who God bless him, he came on that day and he just wanted to be on set and like help out, and so he was kind of doing PA stuff and he had one part and he had one line. Um, and his line was literally "Oh God, no!" Right? Like, and what happens there in that part is there's um, this character that shows up, like he's got this crazy guy in a mask that's like holding this woman hostage and is like really intimidating, and he's holding a gun to this kid's head, like, and then this the one of the guy who shows up and saves him, he's also wearing this other mask, it's really cool and scary and stuff. And this guy's got a sword and he like slices the guy with the gun across the throat, and then like he kills a few other people. Um, Now this guy who's holding the gun to the kid's head, he's supposed to be like pretty panicked because this guy that just killed all these guys, all of those dudes who are standing around are like one of the top mercenary teams in the world. And so this guy just walked in and literally just sliced them all to pieces. Well, this guy's reaction should have been like, "Oh God, no!" Freaking out, and he goes, "Oh God, no!" And like I couldn't. Oh my God, I made a ringtone out of it. Like no joke, I made a ringtone out of it. And I sent it to everybody on the cast and the crew because it's too funny. And he's a good sport about it. He knew what he did, but the thing is, he couldn't. I had reshot that with him 5 or 6 times to try to get it, and I was like, it's just all right. Funny thing is, he's like a talented actor. So like, then I've seen his other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what happened, but whatever. But it was really
And
funny. It was just,
hipster is
oh
what
God.
happened.
He
Oh
was,
God, no.
no, even what you did there just had more than his did. It was like it was the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. To be honest, it was like, oh God, no. Like he was just like annoyed that this is happening. Like, and I mean, I really did make a ringtone out of it, no joke. And I
Save
sent it to
it?
everybody.
Did you save
Oh
it?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I would have saved it too.
I made I made an actual ringtone, and it's the ringtone for a couple of special people in my phone. Um, and yeah, I sent it out to the cast, and they've all got it. And, you know, I sent it out to him, and you know, he had a laugh. And that was pretty good. So, but that was good.
So, do you have any advice for, aspiring filmmakers for the future?
Never quit, like ever. You know, we all understand that life happens; it gets in the way. You know, we all have to be able to survive and you know make a living, pay rent, pay phone bills, pay the gas, and all these things. And so we have to work. I mean, if we got to work a regular job, we got to work a regular job. Um, and when we're able to finally reach that destination of okay, cool, now I can be a director, now I can be a writer, now I can be a producer or work on set as a grip or whatever. Um, if that's what you want to do, never ever quit. Stay on it, stay with it. If you can make it, you know, if you can make it part of your routine to do something on a weekly or nightly basis, awesome. But you know, life does happen, and sometimes you got to put it to the side. That doesn't mean you're putting it away on a shelf and never pulling it out.
Yeah,
Just never, ever, ever lose sight of that. If that's your dream, then keep your dream alive.
I agree with you. I think that, some people lose, well, touch with reality when they get in this business. But I think staying humble, staying normal, because sometimes they're just so dislu well, I mean, you're making so much money, you start losing terms with reality until something comes and knocks you on your ass. And then all of a sudden, guess what? Now you're back in a reality that you lost.
Mm-hmm.
If you stay there living in you're living, basically, you don't have to worry about it. You just
Yeah,
always focus on things, that you want to do, you want to achieve,
right.
but still don't lose touch with that, you know. That's the way
Yeah,
I feel about that as far as people staying grounded. you know.
yeah, yeah. It's very important because you know, unless you're born into extraordinary wealth, you have to work. And if you are born into extraordinary wealth, then you still need to work. You need to be able to learn what it's like to put the effort in so that you can have something that you can call your own and know what that feels like. Because until you have that sense, no matter what you want to do, it's always going to be something that you just can do. Um, and if you just can do something, then even if you're able to do something, it will never have the same value, you know, deep in you know like inside as something that you know you must do. And like you know you got to fight for it too. Like you got to fight for it.
Yep. For sure. Okay, so my last and final question to you is, what is your motto? I ask everybody this, even for articles. Your life motto.
Um, there's two,
A.
but I'll give you one.
Ah.
I'm gonna give you one.
Okay.
Um,
Just hanging.
um, it was actually Qui-Gon Jinn from Star Wars. He said, "Your focus determines your reality."
And you still ain't gonna tell us the second one, are you?
Oh yeah, sure. And the second
Oh,
one is the second one is he who hesitates has lost.
that's not from Star Wars, is it? Okay. All right, you guys, we are going to thank Yanni for being on. And this was hell of entertainment right here. I love getting to know other people in this industry a lot better. And we are definitely saying thank you for coming on, Yanni. But we are going to let you go and
All
end.
right.
So thank everybody for watching.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Daphne, for having me on. I appreciate it.
I'll see you next time. Bye.
night when I first gave my heart to yours, I was scared and feeling insecure. You told me, my darling, even on your darkest days, you'd always reassure.